some good words about Jupiter in Taurus 2023-2024. And they should be good words because Jupiter is very happy in Taurus, the sign of his best friend Venus. And we'll be seeing some interesting and kind of positive things as he goes through the sign. Now, here's how this video works. I'm going to give an overview of what's happening with Jupiter's passage through Taurus. Then I'm going to give a little introduction to how to look at the forecasts and how to listen to the forecasts. And then I'm going to give the forecast for each sign. I suggest you watch the whole thing, of course, but if you're just going to look at your sign, then by all means, go to the introduction to the forecasts and then watch your sign. Otherwise, you're going to miss some stuff. You're going to, I know you're anxious to see what's going to happen, but, we would want to really understand what we're actually talking about. So go out there and watch that little section and then watch your sign and you'll have a better experience for it. Okay, so Jupiter enters Taurus in May 17th of 2023. He stays in the sign until May 25th of 2024. He is going to shoot all the way up to 15 degrees of Taurus. He's going to station there. He's going to retrograde back to 5 degrees of Taurus, and then he's going to shoot forward again, zipping along out into the sign of Gemini. So he's only going to have one path. He's not going to come in and go out and come in and go out like he did with Aries. Not when he backed up into Pisces. This is a straight through kind of adventure. He's only making 3 big aspects during his stay in the sign. I shouldn't say only. That's actually quite a few to be making over the course of the year. And we'll unpack each of those. But he's going to be squaring Pluto. He's going to be sextiling Saturn. And then he's going to be meeting with Uranus. And so here we're going to get a little bit of, kind of a sense of what's happening, where things are changing and shifting around with his passage through Taurus. Jupiter was last in Taurus from mid-2011 to the middle of 2012. And this, all things being equal, that would be a good reference point for you. But all things are never equal. That was a very different time. Neptune was just getting into Pisces and dipping back between Pisces and Aquarius. Uranus was freshly into Aries. Pluto was in the tweens of Capricorn. We were preparing for the Uranus-Pluto square. So that was a different time. That was a different era. That was a different epoch. And so this is going to be different. But still in all, you might want to look back a little bit to that period of time for a bit of a guess about how things might sort of possibly unfold, at least a little bit. Now, Jupiter expands things. Jupiter makes stuff bigger. Jupiter uplifts. Jupiter causes us to, doesn't this cause us? Yeah, maybe causes us. Jupiter causes enthusiasm. Taurus is about resources, and it is about material things. It is about food supply. It is about currency, and to a certain extent, finances, although we've got to be kind of a little bit careful about how we think about that. So we're looking at a point of expansion for these things. You may recall when Jupiter was in Capricorn, and the time that Pluto has been in Capricorn, we sometimes also talk about resources. But Capricorn is more about manufacturing and distribution of resources, whereas Taurus is about the actual stuff. It's, the crop or whatever the thing is that you're looking at, the actual physical stuff, right? It's material matter, very earthy kind of thing. So we're not talking about manufacturing and with the Pluto at the end of Capricorn and that big conjunction and everything that followed from 2020 onwards, we had a lot of supply chain issues. We had, you know, I think the baby formula crisis is an example of what was happening there. But these were all the ports being jammed up with container ships outside of them, and as one of the reasons that we got so much inflation and everything. Again, you know, we're coming off of Pluto plus Saturn plus Ceres. That's significant. Plus Jupiter, all meeting there right at the 20 or so degree mark, 22-degree mark of Capricorn. And so supply chain issues and the ensuing inflation, even as Uranus has been going through Taurus, sort of playing with our finances and resources. Okay, so we're kind of walking out that because that was the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction back in Capricorn, back in 2020. And now, as soon as Jupiter gets into Taurus, he is going to square Pluto. He's going to square Pluto. And this is an aspect, and when I say as soon as, I mean he gets in on the 16th and he squares Pluto on the 17th, right? This is right away. 0 degrees Taurus to 0 degrees Aquarius. This is a hot aspect. This is a hot, hot aspect. And in order to understand it, we have to go back to that conjunction and say, okay, well, that was a point where we wound up with a bit of a supply chain crisis, and we have a number of crises, and we had a big rising of the markets, and then we have had a bit of a falling off since then. So what we're looking at when we look at this square is the first active point of making that conjunction and all the issues that were there, making it more real, making it more of a choice situation for us collectively. So Jupiter-Pluto cycle has to do with finances, and it has to do with some other heavier kinds of stuff. Okay, if we go by the book there from actually we go by the book Mundane Astrology by Harvey, Bygent, and Campion, then this is a cycle that has a lot to, I mean, you know, it's Jupiter, which is expansion, and Pluto. So we're looking for some big economic changes that are going to come out of a Jupiter-Pluto thing. At 0 degrees of Taurus, which has a lot to do with finances, so that's really highlighted for this cycle, a cycle that began in Capricorn, which is also very much, and you know, it's an earth sign. And then we have Pluto in Aquarius. And so what I'm looking for this is a kind of tension between the financial and resources and expansion in the direction that we're used to seeing it expanding, and then Pluto in Aquarius being a little bit more pushing for let's say equal distribution of wealth and that kind of thing. So this is, I see this as being very much a left-right kind of tension that would be quite big there. Very interesting to see right in mid-May of 2023 what happens in terms of markets and finances and things like that. The other thing that this cycle is associated with is terrorism, which is an unfortunate thing. I don't even like talking about it, but I will say this. Because of the signs involved, I would think that if there's any kind of terrorist thing going on that is related to Jupiter and Pluto, which again, we probably see right around mid-May, it's not going to be the usual cast of characters. You know, as I said, they managed to get themselves in there as well. But I think that this is a different kind of thing. I think it is more likely to come from a more progressive, well, progressive is a little bit harsh to say, a little bit more left-wing kind of attitude, rather than the very hardcore traditionalist kind of thing that we usually have, well, that we've been seeing quite a bit of in the last couple of decades. So I think that there might be a little bit of a shift if it's something with that. You know what would be great is if nothing happens. So on June 19th, Jupiter sextiles Saturn. Now, that's a really, really interesting aspect to look at. Why? Because their conjunction, which began at 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is where Pluto is now, their conjunction set the tone for the rise of more, let's call it power to the people sorts of energy that is, again, it comes more from the left side of things. It is more progressive, and it is, with Pluto involved, and anything but gentle. And yet here we have a sextile of Jupiter and Saturn in the signs of Taurus and Pisces. And I think that that has a lot to do with a kind of progressive, again, this is the opening sextile of a cycle that started at 0 degrees of Aquarius. I think we're looking at an opening up of some progressive kinds of changes in the economy, a little bit more of the free or easier distribution of wealth. So that would be something to look for. This is a very economic, I know this is a very economic forecast, but that's kind of where we're going with Jupiter and Taurus. It's very much about the economy. It's very much about our resources. So, and if you may have noticed that matters. We've been dealing worldwide with inflation. We've been dealing with supply chain issues and things like that. So this sextile aspect that's going to be happening in mid-June, just before the equinox, is a very positive and somewhat telling event that will hopefully show us some way to ease some of these tensions. Whether or not we do anything about it's up to us, but the planets are giving us some hints and clues. Now, in early September, September 3rd, Jupiter stations to retrograde at 15 degrees of Taurus. Now, 15 degrees of Taurus, that is what we call the world axis. Jupiter is really making the most of his time in Taurus, right? He squares Pluto at 0 degrees, and then he goes forward and he stations at 15 degrees on the world axis. Very hard to say what's going to happen, but it's very easy to say that this is a big signal for what is going to happen right around that time. So keep your eye out for the beginning of September. That's going to be, and it should be, again, well, people are going to take it as positive. Some people are going to take it as positive. What we're actually doing with it, well, again, that's always up to us, but people are going to take it as positive. Jupiter stations to go direct again at 5 degrees of Taurus, which is a very hot degree in 2023, 2024, because we're also having an eclipse at that degree. Okay, so this is a hot degree. But Jupiter is going to station to go direct on December 30th. And that should make for a kind of a nice New Year's Eve, because right around Jupiter stations, we all get a little bit uplifted, a little bit a little full of ourselves, but definitely a very positive kind of, we can do it, lots of faith. If you're going to go out and party, Jupiter station is a pretty good time to do it. If you're in the US, I suppose that the Jupiter station in September is pretty close to Labor Day, which is always kind of a subdued kind of holiday, but I digress. Jupiter goes forward to meet with Uranus on April 20th of 2024. And what an interesting thing that is, because that's also the day that the sun ingresses into Taurus. Now, Jupiter and Uranus are going to be kind of out at the end of the sign, but it's kind of interesting. Like, we're going to get this big flood of Taurian energy. So Jupiter, Uranus, okay, this is, economically speaking, this is by the book. This is the a very positive aspect for free market economy. This is a very capitalist kind of aspect. It makes sense, right? Because you take Jupiter, which is very much about expansion and growth, and you take Uranus, which is individuality, and you bring these things together. It makes a lot of sense. that it would be about more the free market end of things, entrepreneurial things, very, very much. And it's the beginning of a cycle, the beginning of about a 14-year cycle. So it's quite significant. So and it is in the sign of Taurus, so it has a lot to do with financial things, opening up. It'd be very interesting to see what happens around then in the economy. It should be positive for somebody. It's going to be positive for somebody. Again, I feel that the energy of the sort of plutocracy of the tiny little percentage of people that have all the wealth, I feel that that is going to have to give way with these aspects sort of pushing on our collective consciousness. So that's one thing to look at. The other thing to look at is that Uranus Jupiter has a lot to do with technology. We always get big news about technology right around Uranus Jupiter aspects, and this should be no exception. In the sign of Taurus, we would think that the technology might have to do with resources. So, I mean, I could really see this being, a boom for the GMO folks. The planets are not playing favorites over here. I can see that the GMO folks would really get a big kick out of this type of thing. Also, too, I could see the other side of the story, organics being very, very strong. This should be very good for new technologies and new ways of distributing organic materials as well, particularly growing organic food. So that should be a positive thing. The other thing that this Jupiter-Uranus in Taurus would probably have a very big effect on is cryptocurrency. Uranus in Taurus is already cryptocurrency. You bring Jupiter into the mix, and it seems like this would be very significant. But I want to actually go out on a limb and say it might be good for cryptocurrency in some way or another. I'm not a fan or believer here in early 2023, at least. I am not a big believer or fan in it. I don't see that it makes any sense at all. It seems just like a speculative kind of thing. But as we go forward and we have Jupiter conjunct Uranus in Taurus, we might possibly get some version of cryptocurrency that has something beyond enthusiasm as its base. And so we might start to see how the positive aspects of it, the idea of a single currency that works everywhere, might somehow or another come into play. So that is a really significant aspect. That's technologically big, it's economically big, has a lot to do with actual Earth resources. I would think this might be a big opportunity for things like wind farms and other alternative powers and things like that. But we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Remember, Taurus is very much about the Earth. This is very much about, this is all about Earth and resources, and by extension, economy. So we're going to have to see how it plays out. We're obviously beginning Jupiter's stay in Taurus with some rather tense economic situations. So we're going to have to see if Jupiter helps things out, and if so, how much. Then on May 23rd of 2024, Jupiter will make a sextile aspect to Neptune. And Neptune is at the very end of Pisces, although he's not going anywhere just yet, but he's at the very end of Pisces, Jupiter at the 29th degree of Taurus. Wow. So we're having it's an opening aspect. It's a soft aspect between these two planets that get along really well. They're really the co-rulers of Pisces. Neptune is still back in Pisces. Jupiter's out where he's very happy in Taurus. At the last degree, though, we get a lot of excitement at the last degree. When a planet's at the last degree of a sign, it's not like this is some sort of, quiet, soft aspect, because we get the extremes of the sign. Now, Neptune Jupiter is very, very much associated with progressive, social, even socialist economic agendas. And I think that we're going to see the big extreme of that. And in a way, this is 2 days before Jupiter leaves the sign. In a way, this is the real payoff for his time in the sign. This is where we'll be seeing what it is that we're going to be doing going forward. It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. It's the opening sextile of a cycle that lasts for a while. But I think that it is something that we'll see as being, the innovation, the change, the tensions. How does it play out in the end? So there's your overview of Jupiter going through Taurus. We start out with a rather tense aspect to Pluto that's telling us things have to change. And a lot of this has to do with the economy. A lot of it has to do with how we use our resources. Goes on to sextile Saturn. Here we find some opportunities to make those changes real right away, within a month or so, which within a month of him getting into the sign, June. We go all the way through the sign, working things out. Lots of other stuff are happening in the sky, so it's keeping us busy. Jupiter is expanding. Gets to Uranus next April. New technologies, new opportunities, fanning out in a bunch of different directions that will help and expand in all different ways. And then finally, just as he leaves the sign, it's a sextile to Neptune. And it's a little bit like the plan for carrying things into the future. Very, very, very economically oriented passage for Jupiter. Now let's talk about Jupiter going through the signs. Let's give a little overview of how to approach these forecasts. First things first, this probably works best for your sun sign. It's a little bit of a change. When Saturn went into Pisces a couple of months ago, I said, pay attention to your ascendant sign. For Jupiter, I think maybe we're better off looking at the sun sign. The thing about it, it works well for the ascendant sign too. The thing is, though, the issue with the ascendant sign is that it really matters when Jupiter goes over your ascendant or actually goes into the different houses. It's a little bit less, you'd need a little bit more of a personal forecast to know when these things are going to kick in. It's a little bit muddy. You'll get a little bit of a vibe from your ascendant sign the whole time through, but you'll get a more direct vibe from your sun sign. So I would say look to the sun sign. This is still a very general forecast. It gives you a hint as to what to look at. It's not really specific for any of us, but it's helpful. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't helpful. And, it's free, right? So you should be okay with that. So look at your sun sign, maybe look at your ascendant sign. If you're looking at somebody else's, I guess you would look, then you should probably really focus on the sun sign. You can go through all of them. A couple of caveats that we want to think about, though, for all of the signs. And I'll go through this in at least a few of them individually. And that is the fact that what we're looking at here is Jupiter in Taurus, which is a great thing. It's expansive for finances and material things. It's a lovely placement for Jupiter, and it should really be great for all of us. But the issue that comes up is that we have to deal with all of the other tensions that are taking place, like Pluto going back and forth through the end of Capricorn and the beginning of the next thing there, Aquarius. And, Uranus is in Taurus, and the nodes are shifting from the Taurus Scorpio axis. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's obviously a lot of tension, a lot of polarization. A lot of this stuff we're working out from the Uranus-Pluto square of almost a decade ago. There's a lot of stuff happening, which has to contextualize Jupiter in Taurus. So that's a great thing. It's a great thing, but it's helpful. It's maybe not as expansive. Maybe it's more protective than expansive. If you're playing Monopoly, Jupiter's like the chance card in Monopoly a little bit, right? So You pull out the chance card. Sometimes, you won a beauty contest and you get 40 bucks. And sometimes you have a get out of jail free card, which will help you down the line if you wind up in jail. And so maybe Jupiter in Taurus with everything else that's happening is going to come across more like a get out of jail free card. It may be more protective, more of an insulation for some of us than it is an actual, here we go, this is a great thing. So let's start off with the sign of Taurus. Now, this is a good aspect for those of you with Taurus, whether it's your sun or whether it's your ascendant. This is a positive aspect for you. Among other things, with Uranus going through your sign, he's either hit your personal points and planets, or he's going to, or he is doing so now. Either way, anyway, Jupiter is providing you with a little bit of a cushion, a little bit of optimism, a little bit of faith in yourself, and the courage to go forward and make choices and changes that you want to make. It's a very empowering kind of transit. So Taurus, take this in a very positive way, especially, you've also got Pluto coming up to square your sign. It's like maybe, just squaring your sign. It may not hit you personally for a long time. But again, Jupiter gives you a little bit of that courage to push forward, look at things in a positive way, and to make the most of things. Even the Uranian changes, which you may have greeted, with, they're probably ultimately positive, but you may have greeted them with, fixed sign trepidation. Jupiter should be helping with that. Jupiter should be, saying, okay, well, I didn't like the way things went. I didn't like having to make changes, but now that I'm seeing what's available to me, maybe I can make the most of this. That Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is in your sign, and that's a positive thing. Plus, you are getting the sextiles from Saturn over the course of the next couple of years. It's a good transit for you. Things may be a little unsettling, but Jupiter should help to sort of smooth that out. One thing to watch out for, and this is especially true if you have a Taurus ascendant, is that there's a possibility for weight gain. Usually it's what, we call positive weight gain, but not so much. It's usually because you're going out, you're eating good food, you're enjoying yourself, you're feeling well. But Jupiter expands things, and it's going over your ascendant. That's really expanding your body. A little bit less of an issue for Taurus suns, but still, keep it in mind. It's too much of a good thing is, it's too much of a good thing. Moving backwards through the zodiac, we hit Aries. Now, Aries, Jupiter's leaving your sign. Hope that was a good experience. And he is moving into your house of finances and resources. Do not rush out to buy luxury items right this minute. Jupiter, kind of encourages that when he's in Taurus. Maybe a little luxury, a little feel-good stuff. Again, given the shape of things the way they are, this might be a little bit more of an insulation kind of thing for you. All other things being equal, which they never are, Jupiter in your house of finances, especially in Taurus, should be expansion of your stuff. You get a raise, you windfall someplace. Here, it's more like you're not going to get the salary cut. This round of layoffs is going to pass you by and you still have your job, that type of thing. It's good, but it's not necessarily so expansive. Certainly wait until Jupiter gets a little bit further along in the sign and you see what's going on. I would wait until about the period of his retrograde from September through the end of December as being a time when you might get the best information about how this is really going to play out for you financially. So it should be a good thing. It's always going to be a good thing, but is it going to be great? We're going to have to wait and see. Pisces, this is a third house transit for you, and I like it. You've got Saturn in your sign. He's not being quite the weight in your sign that he is in some places, but Saturn is coming through your sign, and that's a certain amount of heaviness, seriousness, and responsibility. Jupiter in your third house suggests good communication, maybe a little bit of local travel, a little bit of being able to work with your daily routine in a positive kind of way. Things that have been disrupted over the course of the last 5-6 years, going back to 2018, in terms of your ability to get around and commute and your day-to-day routines, can be sort of patched up this year. Does that sound exciting and dramatic? No. But as I like to say, the daily routines, the trips to the grocery store, the commute to work, and all those things that are not that exciting and you don't want to get from astrology forecasts because they're not things like romance and career and so on. These are the background things for your whole life. This is most of your life spent with the third house stuff going on. So it's good to pay attention to it. Aquarius. Well, you got Pluto coming into your sign, so you got a lot of stuff on your plate. This is a fourth house transit for you. Now, home, family, real estate potentially. Jupiter comes in and is again doing a bit of repair work, a little bit of optimism, a little bit of healing. Maybe some of the issues that you've had with Uranus going through the sign of your family and your home is able to get repaired, or if you can't bring things back together the way you had them, at least you can kind of move forward. You're very likely to be excited about the possibility of finding a good place to live, whether that means buying a home or moving. And there should be an opportunity for you to land someplace where you're happy. You got to wait and see. That's always the big caution. You got to wait and see what's going on in terms of real estate on a larger scale, but you should be able to make some positive changes in that area of life. It's also, just generally good for family stuff, and that's important as well. Connecting with, your parents or your siblings and stuff. That's a good thing. And, just generally speaking, being kind of rooted around the home and making it the way you want it to be. Don't go crazy about things, but yeah, if you need to spruce up the place or something like that, this is a good opportunity to do so. Especially after or right around June of 2023 when Jupiter sextiles Saturn. Capricorn, who's better than you? You got Saturn out of your sign, you're getting Pluto out of your sign, sooner or later. And now you have Jupiter in a nice trine relationship from your house of creativity and children. And it's just fun and romance, and that's really great. So for Capricorn, this is a very positive transit. I feel that the way Uranus has been treating you since 2018 will be expanded and things will get better. Now, it's kind of hard to tell how Uranus has been treating you because you've had Pluto and Saturn and all this stuff happening in your sign. So you don't have a clear view of what's been going on. But yeah, probably this is working for you in quite a positive way. So good for Capricorn. Sagittarius, technically speaking, we would say this isn't great, right? We would say, well, this is quincunx to your sign. Sagittarius and Taurus don't have much to do with each other. Jupiter's going into the house of service and work and health. So that could expand your work day. This gives you more work to do, which is not necessarily a great thing. It gets you focused on health and well-being, and some of us like that. It's great for a Virgo, but I don't know if Saggy likes that. Saggy wants to go out and have fun. On the other hand, as much as that is true, it is also true that your chart ruler is in a sign where he's very happy, and that's good for you. You've had a nice run, tell you the truth. Once you got out of Capricorn, fine in Aquarius, loves being in Pisces, Great time in Aries. It's fiery sign, trying to your sign. That's wonderful. And now he's in Taurus, which is nice and fun and sensual and somewhat indulgent. You know, Sagittarius, you got a kind of good thing going on here until he gets into Gemini. So, you know, enjoy the year, make the most of it. You might be working more. It might be time to look at health, but, you know, not illness, health, you know, making things bigger and better for yourself, you know, taking care of yourself, getting a bit of a healthy lifestyle in a Sagittarian kind of way. Scorpio, this is the house of partnership, right? So now this is your seventh house of partnership. You've got the South Node out of the house, which is nice. You got the South Node out of the house. That's been a little bit of a drain on Scorpio. And Jupiter comes into, well, you get the South Node out of your house of Scorpio, and Jupiter follows up on the transit of the North Node. The North Node leaves Taurus and Jupiter comes in, and that's kind of a nice thing for you. It is great for partnership. It's good, especially for existing relationships, I would have to say. But it's good for relationships in general. It is good for your interactions with others. It is a very extroverted, connecting with people. Yes, romance and partnership, that's great. But also, too, just folks that you're interacting with, friends, it is terrific also for business associates and things, especially business partners. So a lot of stuff you can do with this. It very much says this is a time for getting out and getting busy and doing stuff in the world. Some of that Uranian potential, which you've been feeling since 2018, stymied by the pandemic and a few other things, astrological and terrestrial, should be lightening up with Jupiter coming through the sign. So you've been sort of feeling the potential a bit, and it becomes a little bit more of an overt kind of thing. Especially, this might be a little bit more focused for ascendant sign, but I think Scorpio suns will get quite a bit out of it too. Libra, this is an 8th house transit for you. Well, what do we want to say about that? It's really good. So it's great for something. It's great for getting a loan. It's great for a mortgage or something along those lines. It's good for doing inner sort of journeying, let's call it shamanic exploration and things like that. So it's expanding 8th house stuff. In the event that you're looking for having a child, this would be a pretty good transit to have. Being the house of birth, sex, and death for you. You know, we'll just focus on sex and birth and say this should be pretty good for you. But it is an 8th house transit. Is a little bit more subtle. Some of the Uranian changes that you've been experiencing over the course of the last 5-6 years, going back to 2018, some of those might wind up getting ironed out and expanded. And if you've been having trouble with, let's say, banks and insurance and all of those headachy types of things, taxes, you know, this should probably help. So if you've been, you know, Libra, if you've been struggling with some of those 8th house issues, this is an opportunity to work things out in a positive way. So, you know, just sometimes good is just not so bad. Virgo, it's a 9th house transit for you. Now, this is just taking that Uranian energy since 2018 and building upon it, opening it up. You know, things have happened since 2018 that have changed the shape of our world and the shape of our lives. And this is kind of your opportunity to say, let me get things back a little bit more on my terms. For exploration, for learning, it's a great time to look at going to school. If your education got interrupted by the pandemic, it would be a great time to go back to it. You might get back into travel that has been disrupted since the pandemic. So, and also too, just learning, expanding, whether it's reading, take a course on something that you think is interesting, learn astrology, something that is high level. Don't learn some skills, learn big picture stuff. Focus on that. That's where this energy is taking you. And as I said, this is stuff that Uranus may have opened up the door, but circumstances prevented you from walking through. Jupiter comes and gives you a nice little push in the direction you want to go. Good on you. For Leo, this is a career transit for you. Now, again, in the old days, that never really happened. And when all things were equal, this would be a positive career boost. This is where you get the promotion, they give you the corner office or something. Whereas in tougher times, this might perhaps just be more about, let's say, for example, not getting fired, having the layoff not hit you directly. Very possibly there's more work to do and a little bit less reward for it. We have to be realistic about things. Once again, go back to 2018, look and see since 2018 what has happened in your area of career, your public self, what you're known for, what you're doing out there, what you have your reputation for. See how that has changed and look at this passage of Jupiter as an opportunity to capitalize on what's been good, repair what can be repaired, and let go of what is, what's verstuckel and you can't do anything about it. And you do so by going in a direction that you want to go. Go where you want to go with career and your reputation and things like that. So things that have not been going great or had potential that didn't work out, you can reinvest in. Everything else, just look at it as like, okay, well, that didn't work. What's next? What will work? What does work going forward? Okay, that's where you want to, how you want to approach this. What can I do now? New. Right? So there are times when you can repair, and there are times when you just need to go forward with things. Cancer, you're going to tell me that you're not excited by the fact that this is in your house of friendship, but get excited about it. You know what? This is your opportunity to connect with people who share your ideals, who share your worldview. Not just the people that are hanging around the neighborhood, not just the people at work. They're all lovely. They're all lovely. But what about the people that really are on the same page with you, who really had that same vision? This is the time for you to connect with them. It's already been the time to connect with them because of Uranus going through the sign since 2018. Those of you who are watching the entire video, oh my gosh, you keep saying the same thing. But it's really important. It's really important to get this. This is an opportunity for you to build up on that. Okay. Now, with the position of Saturn in Pisces and Jupiter in Taurus, I would say that if you were to, say, join a group or association about something that you're interested in learning about, like NCGR, the Astrology Association, or something along those lines, this is what I'm interested in. This is what really grabs me. I want to go learn about this. I want to go connect with other people. It's whatever you're doing, professional associations, whatever you're into, whatever excites you. You meet the people who are doing that same thing, who are, they're into the same thing that you are. You have this shared base. You have the shared ideal, really. And that's where you can connect with people. And that's a really, really wonderful thing. So, yes, it's the house of friendship. It's, not the most exciting thing that people are thinking about. Very few people ever ask me about friendships. And yet they're so important. And if you connect with people who are really sharing your vision for what you want your life to be like, what you think you should be doing, it's going to be great. Join a political organization, a social group, volunteer for something, or gosh, whatever it is that you're into, do it. Think about society, though. Maybe not so much, the ski club or whatever that is, maybe a little bit something more where you're involved in things for society, including professional associations, including the things that, you are learning about and that excite you that way, different worldviews. This is a great time for that sort of thing. Okay, and finally we come to Gemini, for whom this is a 12th house transit. And Gemini, you're going to get some interesting times in the years to come. And because Uranus is going to come into your sign, And that's going to be the first thing that's going to happen. Well, Pluto is already in the process of trining your sign. And so you're getting some interesting stuff going on over here. You're getting squared by Saturn, but I think you can handle that, to tell you the truth, with Saturn in Pisces. So you're going to be getting some stuff in the coming years that is going to be very positive for Gemini. So do all those Gemini things about learning new skills and connecting with people and running through ideas and stuff like that. Jupiter is in your 12th house. And I would say for you, this comes across as being kind of like the helpful but unseen force. Let's call it the good daemon. Let's call it the guardian angel. Let's call it something really positive that is working for you behind the scenes. And it's not going to be long before it pops out and comes into the fore and is something that is happening in front of you, not behind the scenes. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of changes coming up for Gemini in the coming years. This would be a great time, Gemini, for you to start a meditation program. It'd be a great time for you to, any sort of, I know this may not, for hardcore Geminis, this may not be too appealing, but it's a great time to go on retreat. It's a great time to back away a little bit from all the things that are happening in the world. Again, Saturn in Pisces, Jupiter in your 12th house. This would be a good time for you to back away, connect, and sort of get into yourself so you know where you're going to want to go when Uranus gets into your sign and Pluto trines you and all of that. So great transit. You're going to have to wait a hot minute for it to be wonderful. But actually, to tell you the truth, a lot of stuff will probably wind up working out for you in ways that you didn't expect this year anyway. Okay, that's the overview for Jupiter going through Taurus. That's a little hint for each sign about what to look for. And I would suggest that you subscribe, because this has been a very, very big overview, general picture type of thing. You get a lot more out of the weekly, the monthly forecasts, and other stuff that comes up on the channel. We can really unpack this in little bits rather than in one big chunk. Anyway, I will see you soon.